I'm going to go ahead and just start by making some introductions. So good morning, everybody who's on. Thank you for being here. There's going to be a few more people joining us as we get started. But we're really excited to be chatting with everybody this morning. And thank you for taking some time out of your lunch hour to tune in with us today. So I'm going to keep giving it a minute or two as people continue hopping on. And in the meantime, I would love to introduce myself as well as our guest of honor here. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lauren Iverson, and I am the editor-in-chief of Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles magazine. And while I know that she needs no introduction, with me, we have Jenni Bonura, President and CEO of Harry Norman Realtors. Hello, Jenni.
Good morning.
So Jenni got her start in real estate in 2002 as a sales agent and has since had many different roles within the company. She now oversees more than 15 or so sales offices among various other chief executive officer duties. So welcome. We're very excited to have you here this morning.
I'm glad we coordinated outfit, sort of. I think it's a good combination.
It is, right? Yeah. So we're going to have a few more people that are hopping on here. I still got some joining. Now, as Jenni said, we're both in the same office campus right now. So I recognize her background and I'm looking out the window looking at similar backgrounds. So it's really fun that we're just a stone throws away.
And it is perfect that it is a beautiful, because otherwise the backgrounds wouldn't be so lovely, right?
I know, exactly. So, all right. Well, a few notes before we get started. So we have time at the end. We're going to be doing a short little Q&A. So as we're talking and questions are coming up, go ahead and leave your questions in the Q&A box, and we will have that pulled up at the end and make sure that we get to those questions before we hop off. So you ready to get started, Jenni? As people,
I'm ready. Man. I'm excited to represent over 800 realtors today. So I'm sure that they're counting on me to do well.
I'm sure they are. They got their eyes on you now. Okay, perfect. So I'm Jenni. I know that we're all eager to learn more about what's on the horizon here in the luxury Atlanta real estate market. But I first want to start out with a little recap of how the market has developed in the last 6 months. So can you start just by telling us what were the key trends and developments in the Atlanta real estate market during the first few months of 2023?
Absolutely. When the calendar flips, there's just a little bit of nervousness every year, right? And particularly this year, it was interesting because the National Association of Realtors does sort of a prognostication of what's coming ahead in 2023. And so they ranked Atlanta as the #1 city or the #1 market to watch in the entire nation for 2023. So those are pretty big expectations. And there's a lot of questions as you start a new year. How does inflation impact and interest rates and low inventory? How does all of that impact sales? But I also like to think of things sort of in perspective. So we're kind of here, I call it halftime, right? We're at halftime of 2023. And I would say Atlanta and the metro market has done very, very well in 2023 so far. But I also want to paint a picture. The average person, and hopefully you'll find this somewhat humorous, but the average person might climb a large mountain once in their whole life, maybe, if ever. It's not normal that people would climb, Mount Everest or Kilimanjaro many, many times unless that's their profession, right? So I feel like the years of COVID, 2020, 2021, and 22 were sort of that mountain experience, that once in a lifetime, probably never going to happen again kind of a market. And when you look at the results of the first 6 months of this year compared to that time period, the last 2 or 3 years, they don't look fantastic, right? Because sales are down, inventory's down. I mean, it's very different. But if you subtract that mountaintop, that once in a lifetime thing, our market is rocking. And so if you look at the number of listings sold, it's actually 6 to 7 times what it was in 2013 to 2019, which is a very robust market. And then if you look at interest rates, if you average them from 1971 till now, and we're actually lower than or right at the average. So sometimes people think, oh my gosh, interest rates, they're really tough. Well, they're actually very, very modest. And then the last sort of data point is our average total days on market, which obviously is the time that the home is on the market for before it sells, has doubled from 24 to 50 year over year, but that's 2 months. And 2 months is very low inventory, and 74%, so almost 3/4 of the homes that sold in May nationally, not just Atlanta, sold in less than a month. That's crazy. But overall, I would say the Atlanta market is very, very healthy and very robust. So I'm thinking we're well positioned for the balance of the year.
That's amazing. I mean, it's easy, like you said, to look at that mountaintop and really get nervous when you get there and see all of that. And so it's nice to kind of hear that we're really in a good spot. And that segues me a little bit into the next kind of thing I want to ask about, is that I'd love to expand the border a bit. You're comparing, Atlanta real estate to national real estate and how things are going. So how has the Atlanta luxury real estate market performed in comparison to a broader real estate market in our region in the Southeast here?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I kind of look at it in segments, right? You've got the Atlanta market as a whole, and then you've got the Atlanta luxury market. And when you look at that, that is very strong. Year over year, we're up in the number of homes for sale by 3%, which is steady Eddie, right? That's how you want to grow. You don't want to be peaks and valleys. You just want to have nice steadiness. So if you take that luxury market, you've got the 1 million to 2.5 million range. And then I'm going to talk about 2.5 and above. And again, if you sort of segment out the COVID years, if you will, 21 and 22 primarily, with about half of 20 in there, then you look at that and you say, okay, well, how is the luxury market performing? Well, it's still a seller's market, especially in that 1 million to 2.5 million range. And the 2.5 and above is more balanced, right? So what does that bear out to be? Well, the numbers of sold homes based on the current number where we are this year will likely outpace every year, except for 2021 and 2022, since 2008. So very, very robust luxury market. Similar sales price to original list price. You would think that when inventory rises, that the prices would come down. And actually what we're seeing is at 96%, it's the highest since 2008, again, minus those two COVID years. And similarly, average complete days on market is 51 compared to 34 the same period of time last year. But 51, if you put that in context, typically your luxury homes historically are on the market for a minimum of 200 or more days. If you look at 2008 to more broadly. So very, very solid. And then in the 2.5 plus market, we're seeing a lot of interest, which is very, very interesting. People that are relocating here, international folks that are wanting to be in Atlanta. And we see some of the same story with that number of sold, highest sales price to original list price, and average complete days on market being very, very reasonable. When I also sort of take a back step, I look at how's the Southeast performing comparatively. And it's interesting because the Southern region accounted for 47% of all existing home sales in May. So if you look at the rest of the nation, the West at 18%, the Northeast at 12%, and the Midwest at 23%. I mean, the South is seemingly the place where everyone wants to be, or at least have a home. And so we're very grateful for that. And a lot of the market foundational components are demonstrating that, even in the luxury market. And that's a great advantage for us.
Definitely. And I mean, what we've seen even here at the magazine is that, like you said, not only do we have a strong market here in Atlanta, but we also have a lot of people who are buying and searching, and that second home markets here in the Southeast. So those are always popular hotspots, you know, in Florida, North Carolina, all the places around the area are really strong and compared to maybe other places in other regions.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was visiting our Blue Ridge office recently, and there were people that came in and just were asking about the area while I was visiting. And it was interesting because the agent that they talked to said, wow, that is the third or fourth group this week from particularly Fort Myers. And to me, that was an interesting sort of takeaway, because I thought, wow, I wonder if the impacts of the hurricane or the impacts of, you know, maybe they want to change from beach to mountain. So there can be a lot of things that drive that, but it's very interesting because more and more people are wanting to be in the metro Atlanta area, mountains included.
Absolutely. And kind of piggybacking off of that, I'd like to turn the focus to the buyer for a moment. You know, have you seen significant shifts in buyer preferences or demand for specific features in these luxury homes that we're talking about throughout the year as they're searching for their next listing?
I think people want it to be fresh, right? HGTV or Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles has always made us love great design, great architecture, great furniture, you know, so all of those things, when luxury homes, people expect it to be of a certain level. And if there is a lot of effort or renovation needed, most buyers are not looking for that, right? They want it to be ready when they move in. And so I think that's important. You have a lot of savvy buyers, especially in the market that we're in, because you have to look at, all right, what is the value for what I'm paying? What would I expect in that? And what is going to be the result? And part of the reason that's important, particularly right now, is you might have to look at and maybe even make offers on maybe 8 to 10 homes. That's not true of everybody, but if you sort of look at on average, so savvy buyers are going to do their homework and know that when something fits their budget, fits their needs, and they love it, they're going to make a decision quickly. They're not going to be silly in their arrangement. They're going to be thoughtful, but they're going to move quickly. And that's what we're seeing. Another component is people want a place for all their people, right? They want to have a spot that's cozy and wonderful and homey. And yet they also want a place where everyone in the household can come together. So you've got great outdoor entertaining. Maybe you have a killer terrace level or an amazing kitchen, but those are some of the trends that we're seeing that buyers are wanting in homes today.
People love entertaining here in the South, right? You're right.
It's easy. I mean, inside, outside, it's, you know,
take your pick. Exactly. So no, I mean, it's no secret really that the last few years have been a bit of a roller coaster with, like you said, the pandemic, population growth, market changes, etc. All of those. What impact, if any, has economic factors such as job growth and population influx had on the Atlanta real estate market?
Well, I mean, Atlanta has been a place where a lot of people want to come, and companies are moving here either in totality, their headquarters or regional headquarters, internationally and nationally. And so we've gained a lot from companies moving from out west or the Northeast or whatever the case may be. And even if companies are not coming here, important workers are coming here, and they just like the lifestyle here. They like to live here. So what we're finding is Atlanta is a great place for business, and people are coming for that reason, regardless of whether their company's here or not. And what that means, or how it relates to luxury buying and selling, is more people can afford to purchase or upgrade. So there's a competitive element in what is happening in the market. So you need to be compelling in your offer, but that doesn't always mean the highest price. It's been interesting because over the last several weeks, I've heard many different stories about agents who were in multiple offer scenarios, and they were saying, you know what, we were not the highest price, but the seller was interested because either we were willing to give them 2 extra weeks to stay in the home, or we had a mortgage lender that they knew would deliver on time and they didn't want any surprises. So it's interesting to find out what is important to the seller and make your offer compelling in that way to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're saying kind of, a lot of people are coming in from outside the state or outside of Atlanta in general. Have you noticed any trends in hotspots, I suppose? Where are these people being drawn to? Where are you seeing their interests heading around the city, around the metro area?
It's interesting because they're all over, right? So you've got internationally, you've got influx from India, you've got Mexico, you've got other South American countries. And so there's certainly pockets throughout the metro area, but there's not a specific, oh, I can point to it on the map and say, this is, this is a concentration area. And I think part of that is because people are interested in the lifestyle to which they like, right? So then you've got people who want to live in the city and they want to walk to everything and they like not having a lot of upkeep in the yard or whatever. And then you've got people who say, oh, I want space and I want privacy. So it's really runs the gambit for what we see. And I continue to believe that more and more people, particularly from South America, will continue to find Atlanta preferable to maybe even cities like Miami or others along the eastern coast. And part of that is we have more seasons, part of that is great business, and part of that is insulation from natural disasters. And of course, our awesome airport, right? Which you can hop on a plane and be in Europe and South America. And it's kind of amazing that way. So we've got a powerful ecosystem here that is really driving future success for us and driving future interest as well.
Definitely. Definitely. Now you've given us a lot of insight here on the current trends, but I would like to turn it towards the future a little bit now. And based on the data from the first few months of the year, what would you say are some projected trends and expectations for the Atlanta luxury real estate market for the remainder of 2023?
Well, happily, it's looking positive, right? The market, I think, will continue to moderate. So what we've seen are rates, when rates get above 6.3%, people sort of tap out. They're like, okay, I'm out of the market. I don't want to look anymore. It's making me uncomfortable. And where we see this particularly is in the price point between typically 500,000 and $1 million. Yeah. And because the purchasing power effect of that rate adjustment can be significant. So as the rates steady, I do think that more and more people will come back into the market. And so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because at the same time, I do think that inventory will continue to increase as well. Steady, moderately, but it will continue to increase. And honestly, that's an important thing, because if you're looking at homes that are at 51 days on the market, nationally selling in under a month, we need more inventory. And that's an important thing for the health and the life of our market. And then some of that volatility of the up down will smooth out. And that's a good thing. One month, we try to track different statistics and trends. And it was interesting because 1 month within the last 3, we had several internet leads and half of those were not local. So that's pretty unusual because many of our clients are very localized, but that just goes to show the appeal and the broadness of our market. But overall, Atlanta will likely prove to be one of the strongest markets when 2023 wraps up, which is a great thing if you go into the year with that moniker of being one of the best cities to watch.
Yeah, hopefully that'll smooth some of the fears. As you said, a new year turns over, panic starts to rise just a little. And that's good to hear, to feel that we can all feel comfortable in where we're setting nationally. So, and I want to make sure that we do leave enough time for our viewers to ask some questions. So this is going to be the last little thing that I personally touch on. So just a reminder, if you do have questions, I see we already have one in there. Make sure and put them in the Q&A box now, and Jenni will answer those when we're done. So we're up to date on all of the real estate trends that we have going on in the last 6 to 8 months or so. And really now the question is, how can we use those trends to our benefit moving into the second half of the year? So based on what you're seeing in the market, what advice would you give to those looking to buy or sell a home in 2023?
Sure. Well, tongue in cheek, but not. I mean, that was a perfect setup. You need to work with a Harry Norman realtor. I mean, you have to. In sincerity, you want to find somebody who knows the market. And in the last couple of years, real estate was very different, very unusual, and it took a different skill set. So you want to work with somebody who has all the tools and all the skill set that is going to help you navigate the market now. And even though we're 6 months in, it's going to change again from now to the balance of the year. So, focusing on service and market leading expertise, we're a luxury company and that's what we do well. And part of the uniqueness is that we've weathered and won in markets being in over 90 years of business. But ultimately, what I would say to buyers, know what you're comfortable in spending, be informed about what you're looking for so that when you come into the right one, you can move quickly. But the other part of that is be patient, right? Because it may take multiple times for that to, find the right fit for both you and for the seller. And then for sellers, price it right. So this is interesting. If you look at the market numbers, you can kind of break it into 3 segments. So people who priced where the original list price is actually higher, right? So they got more money that sold in 15 days or less, generally speaking. And that was about 30% of the market. And then the people that priced it right generally sold within 30 days or less, and typically at between 96 to 100% of the sales price. And then those who required a price reduction, it was almost 3 to 4 times longer. So 3 to 4 months longer, plus the sales price was generally between 86 to 90%. So some pretty big differentials. So that just goes back to, if you're a seller, making sure that you price your home correctly for the market will make sure that you get the best results in the quickest amount of time.
Absolutely. Now, before we get to these questions, Jenni, is there any other last minute things that our viewers here need to know or about the market, or anything that we didn't touch on yet that would be good insight for them?
Well, I mean, I don't know that you would say this, so I'm going to say it for you. They need to be looking at Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles. And part of that, we think of it as inspiration, because it's fun to look at beautiful homes, right? But it's more important when you're looking at spending the biggest investment or looking at positioning your home for sale to make sure that you are comparably current, right? So it doesn't have to look magazine perfect every single time, but it should be pretty darn close. And so we love for our clients to have that information, have those resources, whether they come from us or whether they come from Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles. It's really critical to make sure that you're up on what is current and fresh, and that you're well positioned to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I may be biased, but I love the resource that we can provide if you ever need it. So, all right, I'm going to go over to our Q&A here. We have Earl, who is asking, how do you see the Midtown luxury condo market faring?
Great question, Earl. Year to date, the number of condos that have sold has actually increased. That's one of the unique I would say statistical numbers from this year, because if you're looking year over year in many categories, the number has decreased, right? Because I mean, COVID was just crazy, 2021 and 2022. In the Midtown market and in-town market, we've seen condos actually increase in sales. And that's a great thing. It just goes to show that the demand is definitely there. You know, back in 2020, there was a lot of chatter about, oh, are people going to move to the suburbs or exurbs or and never come back to the city? We have never seen that in the metro Atlanta market. And so it's great to see the health and the vibrancy of the city, as well as the suburbs, as well as our mountain and lake areas as well.
Thank you. Perfect. Awesome. So next question, Paula is asking, could you please give us examples of the companies that have moved to Atlanta?
Gosh, how far back do you want to go? There's a lot. So I do feel like this is a little bit of a quiz, which makes me nervous. So Paula, give me some grace here, but I would say that there have been several international companies that are either looking or imminent, and some of those obviously for non-disclosure reasons I won't say, but I will say that I believe it was last summer, the Belgian Chamber had an economic mission here in Atlanta and brought a ton of companies and looking for investment and areas to where they could grow. Now, a lot of those companies were already doing business here, but some of them were not. And so while they were here, they were specifically looking for, can we relocate some or all of our business operations here? That's just one example of an entire country who is looking to move their business here. But then you've got individual companies that have been looking. I mean, you've got Rivian and the development of electric trucks, many electric battery companies. So basically, a ton of development between the Port of Savannah and here, not only in companies that do logistics, but everything that supports those logistical components too. In addition to that, a ton of technology companies, some large, some small, have either relocated here or been born out of Atlanta. So I'm sort of painting with a broad brush because I don't want to offend. If I leave a company out, you know, I don't want to get any hate mail. So hopefully that answers your question, but some really powerful country economics and specific industry adjustments as well.
I will say that I read recently that Adobe was actually looking to open an office in Midtown and move a big portion of their employees to Atlanta as well. So that's one that I can offer, at least that I recently read about. So Atlanta is absolutely booming. You can tell by all of the cranes that are dotting the skyline. There's tons of development going on to make room for new companies coming in and new people who are flocking to our city. So it's really exciting to see that growth and see how the market adjusts to that population. So any other questions that we have for Jenni? Give it just another second. All right, I think that must be it. We ended a little early, which I'm sure is good for all of you who are heading out on your lunch hour. So Jenni, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You've offered so much really great insight, and I'm sure that everyone here feels like they have more knowledge on what's happening currently. If you have additional questions for Jenni after the fact, go ahead and shoot myself an email and I can make sure that that finds its way to Jenni. So I will put my email down in the chat box. And
thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you. And everyone, I hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy the sunshine. Awesome. Bye, Jenni. Have a good one.